Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening everyone. Leading the news tonight, a governance review of the Launceston General Hospital has taken aim at gross mismanagement and executives who weren't up to cultural change. The Premier and Health Secretary promising this review will bring the change to restore trust.
In the wake of shocking evidence at the Commission of Inquiry public hearings, a review into LGH governance and child safety was called. It's now been handed down.
We can make changes to the future to ensure that we do safeguard our young people and our children.
Taking direction from the Governance Advisory Panel, community consultation and a lived experience group.
I also want to sincerely thank the victims and survivors who provided such valuable input into the review through the expert reference group.
Finding the hospital's been plagued by significant governance failures, poorly defined accountabilities and an absence of leadership. Writing, we found a level of inertia present in the engagement of the senior executive management team at the LGH in making changes and with the review. From our perspective, there appeared to be a lack of the responsive leadership necessary to drive change, but applauding the Department of Health leadership for taking action.
We have a refreshed executive team structure at the LGH, and I am absolutely confident in terms of their positive acceptance of this report and their willingness to actually step up and make a change.
Recommending a revised executive structure, department-wide training in child safety, a culture improvement strategy, human resources reform and complaints management overhaul. Some recommendations, like training, are already in place.
I know it's working because I, as Secretary, are receiving reports or allegations of misconduct, and we are able to immediately take steps.
The state government has accepted all 92 recommendations made. The co-chairs of the review will be involved with implementation over the next 6 months.
It's up to the current government to implement that change. That's what they've been elected to do, and we'll be holding them to account.
It's a very clear, proactive signal that we will absolutely do all we can to make child safety and the safety of our children and young people a key commitment and an absolute key priority.
All recommendations will be implemented by the end of 2023. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, a shake-up is on the cards for Tasmania's councils, with amalgamations or the mandatory sharing of services both being considered. The local government board has put forward 3 models for the future of the sector, saying the best path forward is combining resources, redrawing the boundaries, or a combination of both.
We are looking for responses from the community by the 19th of February, so that gives them some summer holiday reading and an opportunity to make comment.
The Future of Local Government final report is due at the end of June next year. Community groups opposed to salmon farming say their concerns have fallen on deaf ears. The state government recently released a draft 10-year salmon plan, which they say supports sustainable growth, transparency and accountability. But the groups say previous consultation hasn't resulted in any tangible actions.
This whole process is a lie, a farce and a sham, and I don't see any point in being any further part of it.
We have better things to do with our lives, but we care deeply about our environment, and this industry does not belong in our shallow waterways. It's affecting communities.
A Department of Natural Resources and Environment spokesperson says all submissions are carefully considered. The Premier has been accused of not taking advice from the Tasmanian Department of Health when he pushed for mandatory COVID isolation to be scrapped. The Greens say it calls into question the pandemic handling, questioning whether decisions have been made with health as priority.
Jeremy Rockcliffe backed New South Wales Premier Dominic Perrottet's charge to scrap mandatory COVID isolation at National Cabinet in September. The government saying that decision was based on public health advice. The Department of Health responded to a right to information request from the Greens about that advice with no new documents. They were told the relevant information was publicly available and pointed towards a letter from National Chief Medical Officer Paul Kelly to Anthony Albanese.
They've told Tasmanians it's been based on public health advice. but the RTI we've put in shows there never was any public health advice.
The Greens say the lack of advice or modelling from the Tasmanian Health Department on this issue calls into question every decision they've made.
We call on the Premier to be honest about the fact that he's making political decisions that are not based on public health advice.
Asked again today if every decision made during the pandemic was based on public health advice.
We have always ensured that we are aligning our thinking with public health advice to ensure the number one priority is the safety of Tasmanians.
Accusing the Greens of undermining public confidence. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania's Special Operations Group is being trained in a new facility to tackle high-risk criminal situations and keep the state's streets safe. The project hopes to attract more full-time officers as the service grapples with recruitment retention.
Highly skilled and highly secretive, Tasmania Police's Special Operations officers guarding their new training centre, its interior and southern location staying top secret.
The Special Operations Group have specialist equipment they need to actually do their job, and this is evidenced by the Bearcat behind us. But no, I won't be going into what they actually have.
They're trained in terms of combating organised crime, serious mass shooter events, terrorism, and a range of the worst crimes that you can possibly imagine.
The government forking out $3.6 million for the state-of-the-art facility as part of a greater commitment to make members of the squad full-time.
At the moment, the Special Operations Group are part-time, and they're the only part-time tactical response group in Australia.
Authorities confident they can bump the number of Tasmania's full-time tactical officers up from 13 to 20 by July 1 in 2024.
So that they respond to incidents in a full-time capacity. They're not turning out potentially being fatigued after working 8 and 10-hour shifts.
This week's tragic siege in Queensland highlighting the importance of a highly trained special ops service to ensure our first responders have the best on-ground aid possible.
As we've seen in the last few days, police run into trouble. They go in to help people. That's our job. It's a very dangerous profession.
Tasmania sends our condolences to the whole Queensland policing family at this really difficult time.
Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
A new online portal is making it easier for Tasmanians to anonymously report suspicious activity. Crime Stoppers and Motorola are formally launching the new system that's hoping to help law enforcement figures fill in the missing gaps.
They can upload multimedia like photos and videos or just text files, and that's then passed through to the Tasmanian authorities to follow up on.
There was a case back in 2018 in Launceston where a tip came via Crime Stoppers with regards to a murder that led to a quicker result. It basically redirected the investigation.
Crime Stoppers already receives more than 6,500 reports each year, 80% of those made online. Authorities are now predicting that figure to rise. Concerned family members are calling on the management at aged care provider Southern Cross Care to step down. More than 1,000 people have signed a petition demanding the resignations of CEO Robin Boyd and the board over proposed cuts to more than 170 roles across the state. Last month, Southern Cross Care announced plans to restructure, making sections of its skilled nursing workforce redundant. The Health and Community Services Union says it supports the petition. A community still in grief is preparing to mark 1 year since the Hillcrest Primary School tragedy where 6 children died in a jumping castle catastrophe. Sensitive and solemn services will take place in Devonport as new details emerge on the long-lasting impact on first responders.
The tributes at Hillcrest nearly a year ago tried to stitch together a community's fabric so cruelly torn apart. 6 children celebrating the last day of the school year tragically died when a jumping castle and several Zor balls were swept into the air.
As we saw through the flowers that were left at the scene, that it was a really impactful event for the entire community.
174 emergency service workers were involved that day. Around a dozen are still off work due to the tragedy's trauma. Those impacted are being monitored over a 2-year period, far longer than usual, in an effort to fine-tune support services for officers.
The 2 years of wellbeing checks is not something that we had done before. We've identified that that is a good thing that we ought to be exploring, and for that reason we're testing it through this process.
For the broader community, tomorrow is another step towards healing. A commemoration at Devonport's Market Square at 5:30 will honour the victims and offer another chance to place flowers and grieve. Then, local churches will come together to host a remembrance service focusing on a message of hope.
A time to grieve together as a community.
The service at 7 p.m. at Devonport Church of Christ will also offer space for reflection.
There will be chaplains and pastors here if people would like to have someone maybe pray with them or just spend some time with them or reflect with them. But it's just going to be that quiet opportunity to reflect.
And work through a tragedy still so raw. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
And if this story has caused you distress, you can contact Lifeline on 13 11 14. Police are asking for the public's help to track down vehicle thieves in Devonport. Overnight, 2 cars and a ute were stolen from East Devonport and Devonport Airport. The ute was then used to drive through the front doors of a service station in Railton, where a large amount of cigarettes were stolen. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. The Cradle Coast's first cohort of locally trained nurses has celebrated graduation in Burnie. They joined more than 150 of their fellow students in taking the stage as the University of Tasmania kicks off a week of festivities.
Family and friends gather to celebrate their loved ones' achievements. 179 graduates taking their place among the University of Tasmania's alumni. Proud grandmother Judy Jones marked the moment with grandson Liam, a newly minted music teacher.
Oh, I'm very proud of him, really am. He's only the second one in our family to go to uni.
For nursing graduate and valedictorian Johanna, it's an extra special occasion. She and 26 of her classmates are the first to graduate from a new nursing course offered on the northwest coast.
I've totally found the course and the profession that I'm very passionate about. I couldn't imagine myself doing anything but nursing now. So.
The intensive 2-year course wouldn't have been possible for the mother of 2 if she'd had to travel. It's hoped if Northwest students can access higher education closer to home, more will stay in the region.
I think it's been a wonderful experience, knowing that many of the students come from this area and they're staying in the area as well.
More than 6,000 students across the state are set to graduate in the next week, with ceremonies in Hobart on Friday and Saturday, and Launceston playing host on Monday and Tuesday. Annie Green, 7 Tasmania News.
11% of students with a disability were suspended in Tasmania's schools in the first 3 terms this year. Labor says the figure amongst the cohort is too high, with the group needing more support.
Suspension is an indicator of disengagement, and it's vitally important that students are supported at school. You cannot support their social, emotional and cognitive development if they aren't at school.
An Education Department spokesperson says all efforts are made to resolve unacceptable behaviour before the suspension occurs. A vital program supporting teen and young parents has been expanded into the state's northwest. The Brave Foundation's program works with young people to coordinate support and stay connected with learning opportunities.
And I just get to hear their stories and hear their dreams and their goals and their aspirations with life and walk alongside them to make those dreams and aspirations come true.
I've always wanted to study aged care, so Peter was able to help me with that, get into TAFE. I didn't quite think I was able to do that on my own.
The program has supported more than 200 teen parents in the state's south since it was established in 2017. The Sound of Summer will return to Launceston with Music in the Park, a free concert series set to hit all the right notes in coming weeks. Members of the community will be able to enjoy a diverse lineup of local music in City Park on select Sundays throughout January and February.
and we've got some incredible local bands and musicians lined up to be part of this year's program, including the Tasmanian Police Pipe Band, the St Patrick's College Big Band, even the West Tamar Municipal Band.
We'll be playing some combined items, the usual favourites, Amazing Grace and Highland Cathedral. We've got a couple of blended tunes up our sleeves.
The Ferguson brothers will open the event on January 8. And Northern Tasmania's youngest art enthusiasts are displaying their best work at the Queen Victoria Museum and Art Gallery. Through the Art Start program, primary students have curated an exhibition celebrating a theme that's close to home.
A stroke of genius splashed across exhibition walls, putting young Tassie talent on display.
We're really excited that our tradition of working with schools and developing young talent through a visual art program from students in kinder through to 6 is again on display.
The Art Start program has been running for more than 20 years, giving students their brush with fame, with this year's theme, Our Home, Tasmania.
That is really special to me because I've lived here all my life and I think it's a pretty special place.
There's some incredible local iconic images that are featured. I particularly love the Spirit of Tasmania with its red backing board and some local institutions as well, including local restaurants and the iconic suspension bridge at the Cataract Gorge.
8 school groups have taken part in this year's program, with more than 100 works featured, selected by 2 clever curators.
It's been amazing to choose some artworks to go on display. It was very fun doing it alongside with Scarlett, and I love picking the backgrounds and which arts go with what. I really enjoyed that, and picking a lot of talented people, that was fun as well.
Encouraging other young creatives to pick up the brush.
Art is really fun, and you could have a talent you never knew about, and you could one day have your art here if you wanted.
McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
The Hobart Hurricanes are sharpening up their form in their final home training session as they prepare to kick off BBL 12.
We didn't hit our straps as a team last year. We had a couple of holes which we've really filled this year with our overseas imports. So it's really exciting for us. We feel like we've got all our bases covered.
It's now a chance for the players to go out Friday night and have some fun and perform and put on a show for the spectators. And most importantly, to win some games for the Hobart Hurricanes.
The full squad selected to travel to Melbourne on Friday will be announced tomorrow. World number 24 Marie Buzkova will pose another challenge for the Hobart International. The Czech player is making her second visit to Hobart on a high after reaching her career high ranking this month. The Wimbledon quarter-finalists will be joined by Frenchwoman Alizé Cornet, who won the title back in 2016. The pair joins previously announced duo of 2-time winner Elise Mertens and 2020's Australian Open champion Sophia Kenin. Play begins on January 7. And Tasmania's newest world champion, Razor Rob Wilkinson, has arrived home in Hobart after claiming the Professional Fighters League title and $1 million US. His focus will soon turn to defending the coveted title belt after working out how to splash the winner's cash. The scars of a bloody and bruising fight now healed, Razor Rob returns home with a hug for his old man and lots of love for his littlest fan. But there was no taking down Razor last month when he won the Professional Fighters League Championship and $1 million US.
I'm a world champion, baby!
I've dedicated most of my life towards that, so it means a lot to me.
I've not seen him for 8 months. He's so serious, 6 days a week, very few days off.
That dedication helped Razor methodically mute his Russian rival to win by technical knockout. It locks him into another 2 years with the PFL, where he'll try to defend his title and newfound reputation as the biggest fish in the pond.
All this kind of stuff feels a bit weird that people are here when I'm arriving home filming me and everything, but yeah, I'm just excited to see my family and friends and celebrate with them.
Some of them watched every punishing punch from home. Those who watched in person made the moment count.
I don't think I went to bed till about 8:30 in the morning, so that was the first time I've done that for a long time.
And how to spend the $1 million prize? Responsible Razor says buy a house. Rogue Razor, a flash new car.
I wouldn't mind a Range Rover, but they're pretty expensive. I don't know if I want to blow most of my money on that.
Just more incentive to back it up next year.
Good evening. Lower than average daytime temperatures across the state today, with the high being just 20 reached by Devonport. Burnie 18, Launceston 17 and Hobart 14 degrees. Low Head 19 today, 16 at Bushy Park, King Island, St Helens, the Friendly Beaches and Strawn all 15, Luncheon Hill and Maria Island 14, 13 at Flinders Island and Grove, and Lyweenie a high of 9 today. On the satellite, cold convective cloud is seen extending over Tasmania today. Cloud and thunderstorms associated with a cold front are over the Tasman Sea. A broad area of low cloud extends over the Bight and southeastern states in the cold onshore airstream. Tomorrow, the low will remain slow moving over the Tasman Sea, with the high remaining to the south of the Bight and the southeast of the continent. South to southwesterly winds 20 to 25 knots, reaching 20 to 30 knots about the northwest and up to 35 knots about the northeast. Seas 1.5 to 2.5 metres. There is a gale warning for the east of Flinders Island tomorrow and a strong wind warning for the far northwest and central west coasts, Banks Strait and Franklin Sound, the upper east and lower east coast. A flood watch is current for areas of southeast and northeast catchments and a flood warning for the South Esk, the Macquarie, the Cole and the Jordan rivers. Also a sheep grazier's warning for the central north. A shower or two followed by a cool day in Hobart and Cygnet tomorrow 14, New Norfolk 16, a cloudy 17 in Launceston tomorrow, 19 and partly cloudy in Devonport and cloudy skies at Campbelltown 13. 17 in Burnie, partly cloudy, 17 at Strawn, cloudy, and Smithton, partly cloudy, 21. 15 at St Helens tomorrow, a possible shower. 14 with a shower or two for Swansea, and Fingal, a shower or two, 12 degrees. The UV is very high tomorrow at 10, and sunrise is at 5:30 a.m. Showers about the east, south and central areas on Friday, fine elsewhere. Saturday, showers about the east, south and central areas, mainly fine elsewhere, and possible light showers clearing in the evening on Sunday. A sunny day ahead in Perth tomorrow, 29, Adelaide 22, partly cloudy there. A possible morning shower in Melbourne, 16, and a partly cloudy day in Sydney, 24 degrees. Right now in Hobart it's cloudy and 11, Launceston partly cloudy 15, Devonport partly cloudy 16. And Kim, hopefully some warmer summer weather is on its way soon.
Looks like next week is better, thank goodness. Thanks, Carmen. Well, that is all we have time for this evening. Thanks for joining us. On behalf of the entire team, for now, it's good night.